Boker Tov, good morning. Today is September 3rd. Erev Shabbat Parshat Nitzavim. Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, Moshe says to all the folks of every stripe, of every kind, young and old, from all societal levels of learnedness and accomplishment, Mechotei Beitzecha Ad Shoei Meimecha, including people who do the heavy lifting. Those who are schlepping the water for you and chopping down the wood, they're all there to have you pass through a covenant with God. That is the message that Moshe conveys to everyone on this his last day of his life. There is a sweet reading that suggests that looks other than the specific message that Moshe is offering, to the highlights of the names of the Parshiot that we've read the past few weeks and we'll read through till next week as well. It's something that I saw quoted in the name of Rav Amiel, who was chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, and his Derashot El Ami. He notes that the names of the Parshiot are very sweet. That there is Ki Teitzei, when you go out, Ki Tavo, the next week's Parsha, last week it was, when you come in, and Nitzavim. And his message that he tried to convey there was that a person can go wherever he wants to go. You can go out, you can come in, but you should understand that you're always standing before Hashem Elokechem. God's always there. God is always there. You're always standing before God. It's a very significant message to convey. We shouldn't think that anything we're doing somehow is out of sight of God or out of presence of God. Everything is in God's presence. A chaver of mine, Rabbi Menachem Penner, who is the dean of REITs, recently shared a different sweet reading. And his suggestion was that if you look to the continuation, this week's parasha is Nitzavim. Next week's parasha is Vayelech. Vayelech Moshe. Moshe went out. And we might want to consider the relationship between Nitzavim and Vayelech. And we know that you need to crawl generally. That's generally the case. You need to crawl before you can walk. Those are the steps and the stages of life that you need to have. I don't use the word steps. But before you can take steps, you need to be crawling first. But we have introduced here by Moshe is the notion that you need to be able to stand. You need to be able to stand before you can walk. And it is the fact that little babies who develop the skill to stand need some time on their feet to gain their balance before they take their steps. So it's not really so much the crawling that is necessary before the walking. It's more significantly, we should understand that it's the standing that happens before the walking. And his point, as he understood it, as he tried to convey it, was that before we just stroll into the coming year, we should make sure we take pause. We stand first and gather ourselves and to consider what it is that we want to be doing and want to be achieving before we just go ahead and walk into the year that follows. I would suggest something a little differently, and that is related to what it means to be a mahalach. We have this notion in mystical teachings that a mahalach are the people that are always in motion. That standing still really isn't an option. That if you think you're going to just stay where you are, you'll be sliding backwards. So there's a Nitzavim experience that we have, but where we try to pause and collect ourselves, but we can't stay there for very long at all. In our spiritual journey, we have to decide that we're going to push forward, because otherwise we're going to find ourselves in the end drifting in any other type of direction. And I would encourage all of you listening today to consider that for yourselves. What are the ways in which you might have just sort of allowed yourself to stay put where you think you are, right? You think, I'm not going to really strive for much more. But to recognize that it's not really possible to stay there for very long. You stay there for a moment, you enter your covenant with God in the parsha, but then you have to make sure you're on a movement forward. And these were many months, a year and a half worth of in certain ways, trying to stay put. We had to physically stay put, but we should recognize the toll that it's taken on us, taken toll. And to make a determination for ourselves that whatever our physical stance might be, that when we think about how we are in living the life that we're living, that we're going to be engaged in a process which is meant to have us move forward. Because otherwise, we'll find that we're atrophying and we're drifting. And with this, so I give you the bracha as we approach this new year, that you indeed find a sense of direction, and having taken a moment of pause, can then have yourself step forward in that direction that you know you want to take, in the ways that are meaningful for you. Have a Shabbat Shalom.